Hi. Hi, in this video, I'm going to talk about when to use R-hop and when to use a more traditional hopup bucking. So I built, in one of my previous videos, I showed ASG Evo, and I really love that AEG. So when I first started building it, I started off kind of like I wanted to make a DMR, and I used 16:1 gears, the stock motor, which is I think 22k speed, and it was shooting amazing. I would say the grouping is smaller than A5 paper at 40 meters. However, that didn't really adapt to my playstyle, and I made it to a DSG. And this is the barrel I originally used. So this is a Premises blue flat bucking. It's R-hopped, and this is just an entirely stainless steel barrel. However, no matter what I do, the accuracy was the vertical spread. So you have a crosshair on your scope. The horizontal spread is actually really good, but the vertical I always have inconsistent hopup issues. So I did the testing, and that was to remove the piston from the setup, and I just use the tappet plate, and I put the BBs in the magazine and start shooting. And I discovered when I was shooting 0.3s, I wanted to use 0.3s. However, on the hopup setting of 0.3, the shear force of the tappet spring could kick the BB past the bucking resistance or the R-hop patch resistance and send the BB down to the barrel. And that's what was causing my inconsistency. So since my BB have no place to stop in the patch, when it's fired, it has different amount of hopup applied. Now this setup would work great in a typical AEG. When you're running, let's say 18:1 gears, and you have your full size tappet plate lag for it to pull, the pull and release would be considerably slower than having a DSG setup. So your BB wouldn't be kicked nearly as hard. And since they're not kicked nearly as hard, they would probably still stop by the patch itself. And since the pressure I needed to hop 0.3 or with a DMR build, if you hop like 0.4s, it's still very low compared to a normal bucking. So in that case, you gain energy out of it. And you can see this one here. I have a very big contact area, and I'm using a bridgeless barrel setup. You can see the wear mark on the patch all the way from the start to about halfway here. That's quite big compared to your standard setup. Now, generally, I would say if you buy a aftermarket bucking, anything that's decent, let's say you go with a Premises purple. I mean, that's kind of expensive. This guy here. Okay, but it is very gummy, which is good. So your hop comes from the friction difference between your barrel material and your barrel material and the patch material. So if you have, let's say in theory, if you have a rubber barrel, your hopup wouldn't work because the friction in the bottom is just so big. So actually you want the most important barrel after all the time I spend with guns. To be honest, it's not the crown, it's not the inner finish, it's area beneath the hop window. So after that I thought, okay, you know what, let's try a traditional setup. So I bought this barrel. It's a barrel that I perhaps treated too harshly in the back. So this is a modified hybrid barrel. Back then I didn't like this because I thought, I mean, you want consistencies through the bore, so why do I want like two material having in the middle? But this is actually really smart. Anodized aluminum, which is the front, is not the smoothest material. And this is a newer generation. The older ones is actually hard anodizes, and it's a lot more rough than this. However, what I noticed on aluminum barrels, like the Modify and the Madbu barrels, they are very straight. The bore quality is actually very good. I suppose it's because it's easier to machine than steel. And I would trust more on aluminum barrel than on steel barrel. However, the part that really mattered here in the back, since the barrel is shorter, they can machine this a lot more precise. And you have a big window right there. That's very useful when you are using a different knob than the stock roller. And I will go through why you should not use a ruler in a moment. So the area beneath the bucking is actually stainless steel and very well polished. So that's good. Now this is just a standard bucking, just have some extra things for air seal. And it has a nub. So I bought this setup. I was gonna use the Prometheus purple, but I thought, okay, let's give this a try, right? It feels relatively gummy. I put it in the gun, and my accuracy definitely, the consistency and the vertical spread definitely disappeared. I have right now a grouping that is just as good as before. I wouldn't be surprised if I lose a little bit of energy out of it, since I have to press it a little bit harder. Now, a lot of people say that R-hop improves accuracy, and it is true in certain cases. Okay, if you go from stock bucking to R-hop, and assuming you know what you're doing, it is gonna be better because the material is gonna be better. And the other thing that people often ignore, that they always say the R-hop setup is better, because what you ignore is when you have a stock bucking, you'll very likely be using the stock hopup arm and the stock nub, which is just a roller. And that roller is very inconsistent. So why do I have a good result on this one too, even though this is just a stock bucking? So here's my evil hopup chamber. As I use the screw. I don't have a nub on it, I just have this screw that I milled the bottom flat, and I chamfered it. I made it long so it's very stable in there. So it's chamfered. Because if you don't chamfer it and you mill it flat, your bottom of the screw would look very weird. It would be not a circle, it would be a circle and get wider, because that's where the thread starts. So it's gonna be like a shell shape, I guess. So I chamfered it so it would look like a proper circle in the middle. I'm gonna put this back. I also have on the Evo outer barrel, I have these two screws that directly clamps on the C-clip, which really, you can see the mark right there, it really locks my barrel in place. So that's, when you R-hop it, you are very likely to change the knob. You remove the knob and you modify the arm. Most common way is just glue there a square piece of rubber. And that changes a lot. That rubber is a lot more stable than the stock roller. So when people talk about R-hops, they think R-hop itself is gonna do miracles. It's not. What usually happens is when you are on the stage of doing R-hop, you improve every other aspect of your system. You have a more stable arm, you have a more stable nub. Sometimes the arm have the nub incorporated like I used it. And that altogether gives you the consistency. And this does prove that in certain situations, your R-hop is actually worse. I mean, this is what I'm gonna roll now. It's just much better. And this I would probably put into a DMR, something like that. Take 18 to 1 gears and regular tappet plate to make sure I can feed this, and probably use 0.4 BBs. I mean, when I use this gun, I had to reshoot 0.36s on DSG. So the vertical spread is manageable. But that's expensive. You're spending like 1,000 to 2,000 rounds of 36 every game. So that's explained. And thanks for watching.